My first breath tastes like brick dust and hot metal. I am on a tile floor that used to be white. A chair is flipped over against my hip. Someone's radio crackles 2 rooms away, static, then a word I catch like a fish you cut. Another Highway 6. The next sound is closer, rubber minus old shoes grinding grit, a throat clearing, a rifle sling whispering canvas. My hand finds a rifle under the desk. Steel and splinters. The dust minus wet cloth of its sling slides across my palm. I rack the bolt, feel the chamber bite and hold, flick the safety down by memory I wish I didn't still have. My name is Ethan Cole. Most folks call me Skillet, and right now I am awake in a police outpost in Basra with somebody coming to check if I stay dead. Footsteps pause at the doorway. A breath. The muzzle edge enters like a shadow. I shoot 3 times, fast, and the shadow collapses into the door frame. The rifle jumps hard against my shoulder. Ears ring. The body sags sideways, the rifle clatter rests on the tile and points its dead mouth at the ceiling fan that no longer spins. Spent brass rolls to a stop against my boot. I don't wait for the echo to die. I move. The hallway is a tunnel of chunked plaster and sun stamps. Someone dragged a desk across it earlier and then gave up its a teeth minus bare barricade now. I step over and slice the corner like Miller taught me back in a different uniform, a lifetime I hate that I still carry in my bones. Sound arranges itself a cough behind a half minus open door, a magazine slapped home to rooms down, a door scraping stubborn concrete. Keep it tight, Cole, I tell myself. It steadies my hands more than I want to admit. The first room holds a filing cabinet bleeding papers. The second holds a man trying to decide if he should reach for the launcher at his ankle or keep pressing his palm to the hole in his stomach. He looks up like he wants me to choose for both of us. I do. It's quick and it's ugly and it's done before the next footfall in the hall finishes landing. I pull a radio off a shelf, thumb it awake. Static chews my ear. Earn H, the next fill a cut, and Highway 6 copy. The signal fades to the mosquito minus hum of distance. I hang the radio on my vest anyway. I want any voice that isn't mine when the drop in my stomach gets loud. The kitchen is a kitchen, which means it's a treasure. A cracked crate of bottled water under the prep sink. A half box of salt packets. 2 packets of energy gel half minus melted together. Their sugar leaking like old glue. A roll of gauze. I take all of it. I take the chef's knife because old habits are old armor. I check the back exit and see a slice of alley in the shimmer of heat that lives here like a feral dog. Someone shouts outside in a language I can't fully catch. I do not need to translate tone. It means there. It means move. It means now. I shoulder into the alley. The light hits like a slap. Dust hangs in sheets. The city stutters, brick, arch, satellite dish, laundry line, and then the cough of a machine gun that doesn't cough so much as roar. A wall in front of me peels in fist-minus-sized chunks and dust erupts into a brown cloud. Heavy caliber. Truck ed. Close. I sprint left. Shots chase me and chew the edges of the doorway I dive through. The room I land in used to be a clerk's office. Now it's a box of paper ghosts and heat. I cross it and push out to a street that opens like a throat. And that's where I see them. 3 figures, one limping, one dragging him, one walking, backward and firing with measured discipline that reads like a name tag in my head contractor. The backward shooter has short sleeves rolled twice, square shoulders, a way of letting the rifle fall and rise that says he trusts his legs. He cuts a glance at me, fast math. On me, he barks not at me, but it lands in my chest the same. He drops to aim shots at a rooftop and steps, all the while making the rifle an argument the other side keeps losing. Machine minus gun fire rips the street in a new direction. The technical swings its snout toward them and the brickwork coughs ray dust from a different wall. The limping man falters. The dragger yanks him and yells, "Rah!" The backward shooter shifts his fire to suppress, and I see him calculating how many breaths he can buy. I make my decision. There's no speech to it. I set the rifle, lean into the corner of a doorway, and give the truck a reason to look at me. The first burst punches the side of the hood, the second walks up the windshield frame. The gunner ducks. The driver flinches. The heavy barrel swings and tracks toward me, and the heat of that attention feels like the sun has focused its entire body on my ribs. Down, someone screams. Might be me. I throw myself to the floor as a slab of the arc above me explodes and rains mosaic teeth. The world goes white in a different way for a second, chalk roaring in my sinuses, grit shattering under my cheek. I roll, speak to my legs with a voice I haven't used since Mosul, and my legs listen. I pop up and fire again, shorter, now aiming for where the gunner's head should be at the edge of his shield. He drops out of sight. The truck lurches a foot and stops, backing the big gun away from the angle on me. Cover! The backward shooter yells, as if I hadn't already committed to the role. He drags his people toward my doorway. I see the limping man's face long enough to read pain, see the third's hand steady as if the world is a table he doesn't want to shake. I toss a smoke can, raid, down the street with the flick and snap my recruit commander used to call a cook's toss. Its kidder S spins and burps out thick wine minus red fog. The street starts to write over itself, the lines going soft, edges erased, angles dying. On me, on me. I shout, and I am surprised at how good the words feel in my mouth, like remembering your own voice after weeks of not using it. They pile through the door, hot and close. The smoke wraps the doorway and mixes with dust until the air itself looks injured. I slam the door and slide a metal desk in front of it while the backward shooter takes the other side and helps shove. He looks at me then, green eyes behind brick dust, crow's feet that come from squinting into sun and not from laughing. Hellhound, he says, because he doesn't have time to say John Miller and neither do I. Skillet, I answer, and he does me the courtesy of nodding like it's a real name. The limping man grits, jaw muscle jumping. The woman Alice, I learn later, but right now she's steady hands and quick eyes, has a med kit open on the floor in a second. I drop the water, guzz, salt like gifts. She makes a noise that might be thanks and might be finally, and she goes to work. I kneel and peel back the limp guy's pant leg. Entry and exit, calf, clean line compared to what could have been. The bleeding is willing to be convinced. We convince it with pressure and salt and gauze. He hisses once, a high sound. He keeps it together. Machine minus gunfire rakes the front of the building again. The desk shivers. Plaster snows. Alice looks up at me with the same calmest orm sometimes says right before lightning. He can walk if we make him, she says. He shouldn't, but he will. Then he will, I answer. The radio on my vest crackles. QUR, nah, then switch to Highway 6, then static chews it up. The backward shooter, Hellhound, tilts his head at the noise. A dog hearing a car 2 blocks away. You heard that? He asks. I heard enough. I point my thumb north. Shutdown minus herb to QUR, nah, then 6. If any of it still belongs to us. He thinks for a razor slice of time. Wherefore, he says, we were 5. I let that hang between us just long enough to mean it. Then we move like 6. On the door's far side, someone shouts and kicks the desk. Another person rises the handle without belief. It rattles a little and gives up. I draw a quick map with my finger on the dust coat of the floor out the back. Alley hooks left, dead car. Then a narrow cut that takes us parallel to a street with an arch of laundry that smells like detergent and diesel. There's always one somewhere. We'll make that left, break line of sight, then find the river by the taste of damp and the heat. It's how I cook and how I fight. Start with what you can smell. On my shoulder, I tell them, and they do. Alice tapes the last dressing in a crisscross that would make an instructor nod. Rhino, because that's the only name that fits the shape of him, plants his big hands, tests his leg, and decides pain is a tax he's willing to pay. The third, Mongoose, I'll learn, checks his magazine and clicks a look at me like he's trying to read my flavor. We line up at the back door. I open it into alley heat. The light hits like God hasn't learned its subtlety. We move left, right, like a dance whose steps we all knew in different lives. A cat bolts. A laundry-lined ampens my shoulder and marks me with a dark stripe. We pass a wall spray minus painted with a swan, the beak chipped away, the curve of its neck still elegant in the grime. At the alley's end, a shadow moves wrong. I feel it before I see it. The air changes temperature by 1 degree in a way only fear or gas can do. I swing the rifle and catch a man mid-minus step as he clears the corner. His eyes wide not with malice, but with the certainty that he will have to do something irreversible in the next half-minus second. He opens his mouth. I don't let him finish the sentence his body is about to write. He falls the way a bag falls when you cut it fast. Then too fast, then not moving at all. Rhino breathes out between teeth. Copy, he says, like he's acknowledging a call on a radio only he can hear. We push into a street that used to be handsome and is now tired. A truck lurches to blocks down. The heavy gun doesn't track us yet, but it will if we give it a reason. We don't. We cut across a courtyard where chickens are doing their eternal, stupid panic, and a satellite dish points at a sky that doesn't answer. A doorway on our right opens, and a woman stares out with a child on her hip. Her eyes are black glass. I keep my rifle pointed at the ground and my eyes at the far wall. I have a rule: you do not aim at realities you are not willing to fire into. Her stairwell smells like soap. Alice touches my elbow once. Don't, it says, and also do. We do not look back. The river announces itself before it appears, a cool hand you can feel even in heat that tries to colonize your lungs. Shutdown minus, Arab is not pretty from here. It is brown and busy and full of short arguments. But it is line, and lines can be followed out of hell if you are stubborn and honest and a little bit lucky. We drop to a crouch behind a collapsed wall and listen. The city's voice is complicated. I pick out the threads I care about: big engine northbound, small engine idling behind us, voices at the level of party and not war, somewhere a radio laughing. 2 blocks ceased, Hellhound says. There's an alley with shade until the turn. Last time I was here, somebody told me not to come back, I say. Did you listen? I'm not a great listener, I tell him, and he smiles with half his face because that's all the muscles that are too busy. Gunfire rips the alley we were about to choose. Not our alley, the next one. Timing saves us more than talent. Change, I say, and we slide the plan like a pan on a burner, same ingredients, different heat. We hook through a courtyard, through a room with a roof that forgot how to be a roof, over a low wall someone once painted blue because they had hoped that day. Rhino stumbles. He catches himself on a doorframe and leaves a smear the color of pongratines. Alice is there and under him in an instant, shouldering his weight like she spent her whole life learning how to do this one thing well and now finally has a stage. I tear open a gel packet with my teeth and press it into Rhino's palm. Sugar, I say. Then you'll curse me for how sticky it is. Then you'll thank me. In that order. He squeezes it into his mouth, then grimaces like I slapped him. Good. The salt packet follows, dissolved into the bottom of a water bottle, and the whole concoction becomes something like Leifuk and Rink. 30 more meters, I promise him. And then 30 after that, and then 30 more. I can give you 60, he says, and his voice is iron fresh from quench. We hit a street with sight lines long enough to make me nostalgic for cover. The truck with the heavy gun noses into view at the far end like a shark testing water. Smoke? Hellhound asks. 2 left, I say, and he nods the way a man nods when he's already calculated both outcomes. On my signal, he says. Mongoose, left wall. Alice, with Rhino tight on Ethan. We peel on raid. Copy, Mongoose and Alice say together, and it sounds like a chord. Hellhound steps out, puts 2 rounds where the driver's face will be if the driver sits up straighter, and then the world narrows to the size of a smoke sailing from my hand, spinning end over end in a little private universe. It lands and starts to bleed color. We go. Feet slap. Breaths count. The gun's first tearing burst goes high. The second chews the wall 2 feet above Mongoose's shoulder and sprays us with grit that tastes like nail filings. The third loses us in raid. We pour down the street and take the left, Mongoose's hand ghosting the wall to keep balance, Rhino's weight on Alice's shoulder turning the 2 of them into a single, stubborn animal. I feel the alley's cool like a blessing. The smoke reaches to pull at our sleeves like a friend who wants us to stay, we don't. We break line of sight, break pattern, break the rhythm of whoever is trying to write us out. We hold in a pocket of shade. Heartbeats talk to each other. The radio mutters something about Q, you are now again, and I choose to believe it's real. Hellhound looks at me and waits because he knows I'm doing my cook thing inventory, ingredients, heat, time. I taste the air, literally, salt and river, oil and dust, the sick minus sweet of a car battery going bad. North, I say. Hug the river. The bended minus Q you are now will be hot. We cut before it. If highway 6 is still highway 6, we find it. Otherwise, we cut farm roads until they become something with a number again. Food? Alice asks. Not because she needs it yet, but because she knows the math is bigger than bullets. Got enough to make it to Amara if no one steals our appetite, I say. And I can always make soup out of bad ideas. She actually laughs short and quiet like a hiccup. The sound hurts in a good way. The alley ends in a gate that's bolted but tired of being. Mongoose works it with a practiced flick and a tap like he knows its language. It opens with a sigh. Beyond it is a street that could be a lie or road, and right now, I don't care which as long as it moves us north. We step into it one at a time, priority stacked, corners checked, the rules obeyed not because somebody wrote them in a book, but because the physics of staying alive do not accept debate. We make 20 yards. We make 30. The city changes key. A siren wails thin and far. A prayer floats on a loudspeaker and turns the heat into a bell. We cross a threshold I cannot name, but I feel it in my calves. The gunfire behind us grows small. The river ahead of us gets louder. Before sundown, Hellhound says, voice low and simple, we touch Highway 6. Before sundown, I answer, or Basra eats us. We move. Basra's old city is a maze built by people who understood heat better than war. Alleys that breathe, courtyards that make shade out of geometry, stairs that go nowhere until they do. We move north with the river at our left like a baritone you can feel in your ribs. Our boots learn the rhythm of this place to quick one careful stop to elicit right a look move again. Every corner is a decision. Every doorway votes. A door ahead is painted green once, then sun. It's a hair to open. The crack is even, not lazy. The air from the gap has metal in it, not gun, more battery, that dries our that lives in storerooms and traps. I set my palm to stop Hellhound with the quiet authority only fear can buy. I kneel. The hinge pins shine like they've been loved this morning. Trip? He whispers. Something like 1, I say, and I forage with 2 fingers along the lower frame until cotton kisses my skin. Fishing line, thin as a lie. It runs from the doorstop to a soda can under a bench, weight not explosive, and then I see the second line sneaking up toward a bundle hidden under a rag. That rag has a geometry I don't like, corners too sharp. I don't touch it. Way past Hellhound decides. We peel instead through a skinny stairwell that smells like laundry and old tea. Mongoose goes high and melts into shadow, so well the shadow should charge him rent. Alice shepherds Rhino under the stairs and uses the step as a fulcrum to keep his weight off the bad leg for 6 breaths while she adjusts the wrap. I keep the door between my shoulder blades and count the space like a miser light angles legs rounds time. Clear, Mongoose murmurs from upstairs. His voice travels like it's wearing soft shoes. We climb. The roof's parapet is waist high and warm to the touch. From here, the city looks like 1,000 problems solved by one brick at a time. The river flashes brown between buildings like a secret. A pop of close rifle fire slaps roofline to blocks over. A shout answers from street level. We hold and listen. The tactical map builds in my head the way a recipe does. Heats, ores here, protein there, oil waiting for its work. The technical from before noses into view on a parallel street. DShK up, gunner ahead minus and minus shoulders behind steel. A man points and yells. Another kneels with a tube on his shoulder, and that's a geometry everyone understands. Our PG team, Hellhound says, already choosing. Let them fire, then cut, I say. If we shoot, the DShK noses our way. If we don't, the RPG fires at someone else. He gives me a look that knows the weight of both options. We wait a half second that takes more. The RPG whooshes and draws a thin chalk line across there somewhere. Brick argues and loses. The technical pivots, gun whining, mouth opening. We move. Roof to roof feels like cheating if you don't respect it. Some gaps are no wider than a Lysum go to black places with names. We take a adder that has seen better days and owes us nothing, then a jump that makes Rhino swear in a church voice and then laugh through his teeth for surviving. The river breath grows stronger. The old city gives us a slant of shade that tastes like mercy. We drop to a courtyard where figs once lived. The tree is a skeleton now, but it still draws a border around cooler air. A teenager in a 2- big shirt crouches behind a clay oven with a rusty pistol in both hands. His eyes are a dog's at a fence, desperate and loud and waiting for the wrong move to mean everything. He flinches the barrel up as we appear. I'm closer than he thought I'd be. I'm slower than he needs me to be. I put a hand on the pistol and take it with the gentleness you use to steal a pot from a burner without spilling. He doesn't even fight his fingers, just forget to hold. Not him, Alice says, very quietly. She's working without looking like she's working, hands visible, rifle down, eyes up. Not him, I echo, and I put the pistol on top of the oven where a choice has to climb to get it back. The boy nods like he was holding his head on with Will alone and just got permission to rest. He points with his chin at the north wall twice. It's the kind of map this city gives you a gesture, a breath, a debt. We go the way his chin pointed. The narrow leads to a wider that pretends to be safe and then proves it isn't. A door for down bursts outward and a man comes through wrong, weight backward, eyes locked on the world behind him, rifle tucked tight like a secret. Mongoose sketches him with a burst so tidy it's almost polite. The man falls into his own threshold and belongs to the door as if that was always going to be his job. Sorry, Mongoose tells the air, and we keep moving because we do not have room to stay. A stairwell pulls us upward again. The apartment on the first landing is a 2- room museum of interrupted leaves, a rug rolled to the point of a move. A TV that has the thickness of a lie about how modern it is, a shelf of spices. I steal to tear minus open salt packets and a handful of sugar cubes without shame. Alice catches me doing it and doesn't even try to hide her relief. Battle broth, I tell Rhino, and his laugh is a cough. We cut through the second room and land in a hallway that has the dangerous confidence of long sight lines. Halfway down, a door opens and a face lunges out, mouth wide, fingers white on a launcher tube, the warhead cap still on. He's new at this or in a hurry or both. I put 2 into his chest and 1 into the doorframe because I still believe in would being unfaithful 2 bullets. The launcher bangs against the door, falls, and knocks the cap off with a hollow toy noise. Leave it, Hellhound says, and nobody argues with a man who has made it to this hour by not hoarding promises. We're each the end of the hallway as a truck honks, a braying donkey insists on its lines, and somewhere a generator coughs itself awake. The river is a street away now, sometimes visible, sometimes only a cool vote on my skin. We slip into a side yard that is somebody's world, a bucket, a broom, a radio on a shelf playing a song that might be about love or bread. The radio becomes a voice not singing at all. You are knob end is hot. It crackles, thin and brave. Highway, 6 blocks south, side canal cut. Hellhound and I trade that look again, the one that says we are both in the habit of gambling with other people's information. Side canal, he repeats, checking the map in his head. Canal runs into the river like a wrong answer, I say. If it's cut, it means someone thinks like us. Or like them, he replies, and we pocket the uncertainty for later. We break into a market lane that used to be crowded with fruit and argument. The stalls are skeletons. A cat makes an entire meal out of a paper cone. A woman hurries by with a sack of something heavy and a spine that knows the cost of it. We are ghosts to each other. That's good. Ghosts live forever, until they don't. The lane ends in a plaza with a view of the river so honest it could break your heart. Between us and that view is a 2- building with a balcony full of sandbags and bad intentions. I see the angle a half second before it bites us. Balcony, I say, and then the balcony spits. The first burst is high and shows us what could have been. The second learns and wants to write our names on the wall behind us. We drop behind a cement planter that contains a plant doing its best. PKM, Rhino decides, and gun nerd that I am, I still let the word go past without catching it fully. It's spelt minus fed and angry and will chew us to grammar if we let it. Smoke? Hellhound asks. Last read, I say, and his eyes flick to my vest where truth lives. He nods anyway, because permission is not what we're running out of. 2 and 2, he orders. Mongoose with me, short rush to that kiosk. Ethan, you peel left with Alice and Rhino, take the load, or we clear up from inside. If the stairs are an oven, we improvise a kitchen. I grin because I can't help it. Copy, Chef, Hellhound adds, and the grin gets wider because he's teasing me on purpose to keep the biology in line with the plan. He pops and goes, Mongoose on his hip, like a second bot that knows how to shoot. They make the kiosk in one breath, and the PKM chews the corner off a second too late. My turn. I throw smoke into the plaza, and it blooms red with a speed you can be proud of. Alice ducks under Rhino, and we become a 3- person animal again, low and fast and big enough to matter. We slide along the planter, then the car, then the kind of load or way that makes you bow to the place you're about to keel in. Inside smells like coal and cumin. The stairs are a narrow confession. I try them with my weight like a foot checking ice. They hold but complain, and the complaint is loud enough to write us a problem upstairs. I go anyway, because the other option is dying on schedule. Halfway up, a shadow moves at the landing. I don't wait for the shape to complete its homework. 2 shots, a stagger, a drop. I take the landing like it owes me money. The hallway at the top is short, 3 doors, 1 open, 1 cracked, 1 closed. The open one faces the balcony like a mouth. I keep low and aim for the place where PKM has to reload if its owner is human and not a ghost. The belt slaps the floor, a tell I could find in my sleep. I cut the corner and see the gunner hunched behind the sandbags like a myth, hand searching for the next feed. He looks at me and knows the arithmetic. I don't give him a new number. He falls into the bags as if he's always been part of them. The assistant gunner reaches for the belt with fingers that need to be doing something. I give him the dignity of stopping him fast. The PKM's mouth gapes. The balcony is suddenly a quiet the plaza can use. Balcony clear, I breathe into the stairwell, and the breath goes down to Alice and Rhino, and Ray Minus enters the world as motion. Hellhound answers from the kiosk with 2 quick shots and a chuckle I don't trust but like. Street is ours for 3 breaths, he says. Take them. We do. Alice is up the stairs in a sigh, checks my corners, looks at the bodies like a mathematician glancing at a solved problem, then flips into logistics. Water, she says, and I put a bottle in her hand before she finishes the vowel. Rhino takes a sip that looks like a prayer. I tear open another gel and don't make him ask. On the balcony, the river is close enough to taste. The breeze comes from it like a story you want to believe. We can see the bend toward Alminus. You are not from here if we lie to ourselves a little. Between us and that bend are blocks and angles and promises. The radio is a mosquito again. Bend is hot. Cut before the date palms, a voice says, tired and insistent and more helpful than most strangers. Date palms, Hellhound repeats, scanning. You know the grove? I know the idea of one, I say, because the city has a lot of ideas and we're making them into a map as we go. A crack snaps the parapet by my ear and knocks brick into my shoulder. Not PKM, different song, single, precise. Sniper. The quiet after the crack is obscene. Glass, Mongoose says from the kiosk, and I track the reflection in a window across the plaza. Second -4, dark room, a lens like a patient eye. I set my sights to brick -width, slow, and 1 left because most men shoot high when they think they're God. I put 3 into the window in a rhythm that makes my shoulder honest. The glass offs dust and then a figure jerks back like the room just remembered its own door. Move now, Hellhound orders, and he's right because the plaza has noticed we exist again. We cut down the back stairs and back into heat that forgives nothing. The smoke in the square is a memory, red becoming pink, becoming the color shame wears when it's tired. We sprint the shadowed edge and put buildings between us and respectability. At the river wall, we pause. The Shutdown minus Arab is 30 yards of open sun from us. Between wall and water is a promenade built for a different kind of day. It's too open and too honest and exactly what we need to make distance fast. Which means it's wrong. Open ground, Alice says. No judgment, just gravity. 50 yards exposed, Hellhound calculates. Then the fisherman's shelter. Then the ramp to the service road. After that, we live or don't. DShK will rake it. If they've got an angle, Rhino warns, and the warning comes with the authority of a man who has felt heavy rounds learning his name. Angles are earned, I say, because I need to believe in work. I pull my last smoke and look at it like it might start speaking. It doesn't. Red buys us 5 seconds, I say. I can give you another 3 with noise. What kind? Hellhound asks. The kind kitchens make. I kick a paint bucket that's been drying into prettier garbage, and the metal thunder chases itself down the alley we aren't taking. A dog announces the insult. The door barks back. Unread, Hellhound says, rifle already telling the promenade that we are serious. I pull the pin. The can hisses like a snake that knows what its job is. I throw it long past the line where we'll be into heartbeats if our hearts cooperate. The first breath of color is a curtain we run toward as if we wrote it. We go. The promenade opens its chest to us. Feet hammer. Heat slaps. The river laughs because rivers always do when men sprint near them. I count the breaths like I'm skimming soup, not boiling it. 1, 2, 3. The smoke catches up with our plan and tries to hide us like a friend with 2 short arms. Halfway, the world tilts. From the far corner where the promenade meets the service road, a truck noses out with the smooth confidence of a man arriving late to a party he intends to own. The DShK on top finds its posture. The gunner stands into his harness. The mouth of the gun decides to be a mouth. Down, I hear, and my body obeys even before my mind votes. The first burst chews the river wall ahead of us into wets and sprays us with stone like a punishment. The second walks toward us the way a bad story does, bracket by bracket, convinced of its own ending. We die behind the fisherman's shelter, and the shelter remembers what it is wood and hope, and not a lot else. Splinters leap like fish. We can't stay, Hellhound says. Not payment. Just true. I've got nothing left that makes smoke, I say. I hold up empty like a confession. Then we make our own, Alice says, eyes bright and unkind of fear. She points at the shelter's old tarp, and the small metal drum that smells like used oil. Cover, fire, black. Rhino grins like a man who has decided pain is fuel. He kicks the drum over. Oil burps out and kisses sun. I take the tarp and drip it across the middle because given 2 bad options, pick the third you invent. We build a wall of ugly fire with a Bic lighter someone left in a pocket and the drum's willingness to forgive sparks. The flame crawls, then runs, then climbs into the air 4 feet 5, smoke thick and dark and free. On my count, Hellhound says, and the count is already happening in his throat. 3, 2. We move as the black sheet lifts, and the DShK's next burst argues with physics and loses, bullet-staring arcs into smoke that does not care what names they have. Left. Mongoose falls because he has already chosen the gap the gunner can't see without a spine. We take it. For 6 seconds the world allows us. For 5 of those seconds, I believe in everything. At the 6th second, the smoke thins and the gun finds us again by sound and luck. A round kisses the stone 2 inches from my hip and tells me a story about statistics. I don't like the ending. The ramp to the service road is 10 yards ahead. 10 yards is a number you can hold in your pocket or die trying to. I lean into it like a hill. The truck engine growls as the driver tries to get a better angle. The gun cycles hot and hungry. We break the line. We break, and the river gives us both a gift and a curse across when that fat tends our smoke in a gust that clears it, revealing the second truck parked at the top of the ramp with another DShK already swung our way. I taste salt mine, river, everything. I shoulder the rifle. I pick a face. I decide, and the heavy gun starts to speak. The heavy gun starts to speak, and the street forgets how to breathe. I hit the ramp's gutter so hard my ribs change their minds. Mongoose disappears to my right like he's been practicing for this fall since childhood. Hellhound dives left, low and mean, dragging Alice by the plate carrier while Rhino commits to momentum and becomes a slide that ends in a curse. The second DShK is at the top of the ramp, the first at the corner behind us, and both guns are trying to own a slice of the same air. Bullet's sun makes stone and cruel racers. The fisherman's shelter behind us sheds splinters like rain. I press my face to concrete, so close I could kiss aggregate. Depression limit. Hellhound shouts over the roar. He means the gun can't dip to where we are without the gunner leaning into geometry he won't try while the truck's rocking. I test it with a glance rounds chew the lip above us and throw down gravel teeth, but the mouth can't get lower. Culvert. Mongoose barks. He points with his barrel to a dark rectangle under the ramp stormwater clogged with trash. Exactly the kind of hole the city forgot the day it needed it most. Go! Hellhound orders, and we become rats with better rifles. I slide into stinking shade, water 2 shins, I'm to knees, old plastic whispering under boots. The culvert is just big enough for shame and men our size if we breathe right. The guns keep arguing with physics above us and physics shrugs. We move hunched, hands on concrete, elbows knocking rotten wood that used to be a crate someone cared about. A rat complains that we have borrowed its living room. Light knifes in from the far end. 10 meters, then 8. Halt, Hellhound says, which is the kind of word you only say if you know the difference between living and arriving. We stack in the culvert's throat and listen to the trucks adjust. Engine noise shifts. Voices yell. The river slaps stone as if cheering a team it doesn't like but respects. On my break, he whispers, Ethan on the right flanked. Take driver if you can see him. Mongoose, gunner on truck 2. Alice, Rhino, straight up and peel left with me. We are gun the low wall. Copy, we say, each to our own private god. He explodes out of the culvert like a sentence that's been waiting for its verb. I follow and my eyes take a shovel to the light and make it make sense. The near truck's driver is shoulders and neck behind a cracked windshield. I put to through glass and learn the angle is wrong the round spitterbear beauty across a world that doesn't deserve it. The driver flinches, ducks, and gives me his hat, not his skull. Mongoose goes high from a knee, short controlled fire at the lip of the shield. The gunner snaps down, then pops back like a game, hunting for a sight picture through heat. Hellhound is already moving along the low wall, rifle flat, buying us breaths with his magazine. A third figure leans over the bed with a box of link trowns feeding the belt. I aim for the place his knuckles have to be if he wants to keep his hands. The belt stutters. The gun hesitates greedily. The pause is a gift. Left, Alice yells because she has eyes you pay for with discipline. The first truck at the corner is trying to crab to a new angle. Rhino plants, grits teeth, and sends 5 rounds that aren't beautiful but are honest, forcing the gunner to blink behind his shield. I see the driver again, a sliver of cheek in the frame, and this time the glass is already gone. I put one there. He falls sideways like a marionette that got tired. The truck lurches, bumper kissing stone. The gun jerks, its barrel draws, a question mark in air. Push, Hellhound snaps, and we do. We cross the open like thieves, forced to be upright. Mongoose takes the truck's rear tire out of principle. The rubber sighs and throws a tantrum. I climb the ramp edge and get angle enough to see the bed. The gunner is climbing out of his harness, trying to be both brave and safe, which is a hard trick. I don't give him time to pick. The second truck revs, frustrated. Its driver tries to reverse for angle. The rear wheels hop, crunch over curb, and the DShK bugs out for a breath, a dumb metal animal that can't decide if the taste is good. We brake line and hug the service road's low wall like old friends who fought once and agreed never to mention it. Move, Hellhound says, his voice even again, the fight tucked back into the place he keeps it. We're on the service road until the wall dives and becomes fence. The river is at our shoulder, brown and alive and talking to itself. I count heartbeats and wish for a shade that doesn't exist. Alice eyes Rhino's leg with that math. She does. 5 minutes. She says, 2 Hellhound answers and the 2 is charity. We tuck into a wedge of shadow under a pumping station platform. It smells like oil, rust, and the aftertaste of electricity. Alice peels Rhino's wrap, sees what the last sprint cost him. The wound has bled through the gauze, is now pink honesty. She gives me a look that asks for more hands than she has. I give her mine. Sugar first, I say, pressing a cube into Rhino's mouth. Then salt. Sip, not gulp. He obeys like a man who has tried the alternative and didn't like it. Alice irrigates with our river minus warm bottled water, then tilts her head. I want saline, she says, soft and annoyed at reality. I rip to salt packets, dump them into the cleanest bottle we have, add water, swirl. It's not textbook, but it's better than our future without it. We flush. Rhino hisses like a kettle, and then you can see relief bloom on his face like a cheap miracle. Mongoose blinks hard. You good? I ask. Dust got me, he says, squinting, lashes caked white. Feels like somebody filed my eyes. Saline for you two, I say, and we do that dance where a man tries not to flinch while another man puts kindness in his eyes. He breathes. He blinks. He blinks again, and when he opens, he can see me without the wince. Bitter? Like I took my head out of a bag, he says, and tries to make a joke and fails, and that's its own kind of success. The radio on my vest coughs up a voice like a match. I'll minus you. You are not and is hot. Side canals cut, repeat cut. If you're southbound, don't be cute. Peel west early. Peel west. Hellhound murmurs, map turning behind his eyes. Farm roads. Farm roads are lies until they're not, I say. But I like lies that hate trucks. We move again. The pumping station gives us a catwalk. The catwalk gives us a staircase. The staircase gives us a view of the river bending like an arm around a bruise. Date palms show up in Stadium Rows where the earth is a little greener and the upper air tastes like hope if you squint. Between us and the bend are cut canals, long scars with muddy water, some crossed by concrete lips, some by nothing at all. We choose west. The first lane we try betrays us with a gate chained in a not someone learned from a bored uncle. Mongoose looks at it like it's a lock, and he's not offended. He pulls a strip of metal from his belt that used to be a wiper blade and whispers to Mel until it changes its mind. The chain sighs open. We push through and close it behind us because there are rules even here. In the palms, the heat turns from slap to hug. Shade flickers. Air slows down. The path threads between irrigation ditches full of water that doesn't know it's a weapon yet. A dog watches us from a roof and decides we are too much news to report. Women move in the distance, bending over green, unstoppable. A boy rides a bike with no seat, standing up because childhood is a dumb good idea. We walk in single file. We become less interesting. The river's voice lowers. The city's gunfire becomes gossip. At a T in the track, we look left, open field, open sky, and right, date palms leaned in a council. We take right because left feels like telling the truth to the wrong person. The path drops to a narrow bridge over a canal where water ticks against concrete. Halfway across, Rhino sways. Alice has his elbow before his body, even admits it. I pour a finger of water in his mouth and watch his throat decide to do the job. On the far bank, a pickup sits nose minus down in weeds, hood open, battery gone. He's probably sitting in somebody's pocket 3 villages away. The bed has nets and the memory of fish. Hellhound eyes it like a problem we could turn into a plan if plan weren't a luxury. Later, he says to the truck aloud, as if that makes it hold still for us. We cut along the levee where the canal runs clean enough to see the bottom lie about depth. Two men on the opposite bank watch us, then decide we are neither purchase nor trouble. They go back to arguing about the price of something important. That too is a good sign. The bend announces itself with geometry. The river hard-minus curves around a stand of palms and sheds off smaller veins like a hand washing. On a road that rides the outside of that curve, dust lazily rises behind the pickups. The black mounts of heavy guns poke over their cabs. They are not hunting us, they are hunting the idea of people like us. It's worse, somehow. Westmore Hellhound says, and the words are a hand on my shoulder pushing me away from a fight I want but can't afford. The side canal cuts us off. It has no bridge, only a battered flume with a steel gate and a chain the size of a wrist. The gate is down and the water shoulders it like a stubborn ox. This is the cut the radio promised, the place where someone else decided flow should not be simple today. We crouch in the weeds and do the math. 30 yards along, there's a place where the banks are lower and the weeds denser, which means mud and leeches and regret. The gate here has a ladder, the ladder has a lock, the lock is cruel and mid-minus day honesty. No cover on the approach except beliefs and bad posture. Pick Able? Hellhound asks Mongoose. Pick Able, he says. Loud. I look at the ladder, the chain, the lock's mouth. I look at Rhino's leg, the way he holds it like a gentleman holds a wound. I look at the palms, how they hold their own shadows like secrets. Option 2, I say. We cross at the low place. Rhino's leg, Alice reminds me, and the reminder isn't argument. It's physics, with a bedside manner. I can bag it, I say. I dig in the pack and pull out a garbage bag we didn't turn but inherited from the pumping station, black plastic, thick enough, ugly enough. I tape it above Rhino's knee with loops and crisscross S using a roll that once kept kitchen prep from bleeding onto cutting boards. We improvise a cuff and make a promise to his blood we intend to keep. He watches me with an expression that could be pride or nausea. How deep? He asks. Chest, I say, because lying about water gets you drowned. We go to the low place and meet the water like men who mean it. It bites sad skin with cool surprise. The mud reaches up and makes cousins of our boots. Alice keeps Rhino's chin out of the river with a hold its equal parts technique and stubborn love for people she didn't ask to drag through this day. Hellhound leads with the rifle muzzle out of the water like a periscope. I follow with my mouth, the tasting metal and river in equal measure. Mongoose brings up the rear, ice whipping between bank and sky as if something might fall out of either. Halfway, a voice barks from somewhere behind us, and the barks turn into shots. Bullets slap the water with little fists. We go lower, mouths to surface, noses to fate. The world is sound and brown, and the burn in your lungs that asks for contract renegotiation. We come up at the far bank in a clutch of weeds that smell like our tea. Mud tries to keep our boots as trophies we pull and the weeds complain. A shot bites the bank where my head was and throws wet dirt in my ear. Mongoose answers with a pair of indifferent pops that remind the other side there are two sides. The shots stop. We breathe like people again. We crawl below the bank line and become part of the ditch run. The date palms on this side stand closer together, the shade a little thicker, the air 5% kinder. Rhino looks at his tape bag and waits for his leg to tell him whether it hates him. It does not. Sometimes small mercies show up on time. We move. The farm road hears a rumor that repeats itself enough to become a path. A little girl walks it with a stack of flatbreads on her head that would shame a high wire act. She does not look at us. That keeps us safe. We angle back toward the river when the radio warning becomes a memory and the line minus of minus sight geometry improves. A service race parallels the water at a distance that feels precise. We get low and run it like we own stock in it. An hour north, the world opens, the palms separate, the river widens, and the sound of living trades up from small domestic noise to big mechanical throat. I'll minuscule. Yorno is ahead, not in name, but in math, where the Tigris and Euphrates shake hands and argue about who is older. Between us and that confluence, Highway 6 lines up like a promise someone else might keep. We ease into a drainage swale and let our pulses catch us. The sun is lower by half a fist, the light turning from accusation to interrogation. Mosquitoes get opinions. The air's edge softens, which is the kind of soft you can use or drown in. Hellhound points with his chin. That overpass, he says. A concrete ribbon crosses a secondary channel a click ahead with a service ramp that tastes like access. Between here and there is open scrub into construction lots full of rebar and opportunity. Roadblock? I ask. Count on wood, he says. We ghost the fence line of the first lot. Rebar rises in bunches like bad grass. Shadow stripes us. A generator coughs not on, just thinking about the idea. A man in a chair shades his eyes with the back of his hand, looks at nothing, and keeps looking at it. We pass without becoming a story he has to tell. At the fence gap, a mutter of an engine grows into a shape, white hillocks, box on the back, not a technical but not a nothing. It noses along the dirt like a man whistling to loud in an alley at night. It slows as it nears the overpass, then stops in a way that says it belongs. Two men climb out and act like they own the 100 meters from the ramp to the road. Post, Mongoose says. Temporary but real. Traffic? Alice asks. Lied, I say, because lying about traffic is a city habit. I never learn it. We crouch behind a stack of rebar that wants to be a building when it grows up. Hellhound sets his rifle on 2 bars and draws rectangles in air. We can do this, he says, quietly, as if telling himself a bedtime story. But we will pay. We've been paying since Basra, Rhino says. He rolls his ankle and the joint answers with a face he doesn't let us see long. Alternate? Alice asks me, not because she needs my permission, but because she knows I hoard bad ideas for rainy days. I run the map the way I run a prep list. North another kilometer is the next crossing, but the ground between lies open like an accusation. South puts us back into the bend's teeth. West is palms and ditches until both become somebody's field with a gate and a man who wants to talk. East is river and honesty. None feel like a trick that won't blow up in your mouth. Through, I say. Fast, loud enough to be confusing, quiet enough to be forgettable. We put one man on their radio, if they have one, and make him say the wrong thing. Hellhound grins, with half his face again. I like it when you cook lies, he says. We set the table. Mongoose goes right to get a cut on the Hillix's rear, because any vehicle left alone is a character flaw we can edit. Alice unrolls a pressure bandage to have it ready, because optimism is a fancy word for preparation. Rhino checks his muzzle and his breathing at the same time, seasoning them like a metronome. Hellhound watches the 2 men at the post and times when they get bored. Boredom is a door. We go on a sigh. The first man raises a hand, palm out, the universal stop translated into a language that thinks it invented hands. I do not raise mine. I keep walking the way a contractor walks when he has paperwork in a pocket and a timetable in his spine. South work, I say in English because my Arabic broke somewhere between deployments and jobs and a life I left in a bag. I jerk my chin like I'm late, and it's their fault. They blink. It's always useful to blink half a second where the brain asks the heart if it wants to argue. Hellhound breezes by me like a man on his 5th version of this. He flashes nothing in a way that reads like something. Rhino hitches his weight and becomes less interesting. Alice's hands are empty, and that is its own kind of magic trick. The second man asks for a paper he has no word for. He reaches toward my chest in the clumsy way of men who think their authority lies in their fingers. I pivot my body just enough that his hand finds air and annoyance. He opens his mouth. Mongoose steps out of shadow behind him and places a gentle steel circle at his belt line. Everything in the world sharpens. Shh, Mongoose says in a voice that could calm dogs. Don't be brand minus new. Hellhound smiles at the first man. Radio, he says, and it sounds like please and given now. The man gives it because the new shape of his afternoon says he should. Hellhound keys it and says 5 hasty words in garbled Arabic about a false alarm and a call from South Post. He ends with copy minus copy in English because sometimes the right wrong word is the right one. We move. We don't run because running is an opinion. We cross the 20 meters of open like we were sent. The ramp shoulder is gravel and small regrets. A truck up on the road honks once like it knows a joke we don't. Halfway up, a shout cracks from behind. The first man has found his opinion and wants to share it. He reaches for something he shouldn't. I turn and put one round into the ground at his toes. This pumps. He freezes, hands up the way pride goes up when it knows rent is due. We gain the ramp. The shoulder becomes shoulder height. The overpass opens us to sky and speed in a line that matters. Highway, 6 lies ahead, a strip of asphalt ridden across heat and distance, and every part of me that remembers map straightens. On, Hellhound says, a word with a horizon baked into it. We crest the ramp, then step onto the shoulder of Highway 6. A truck growls from the south. Another answers from the north. On the far side of the overpass, a third snout noses out of a construction cut like a dog smelling bacon. 3 engines, 3 angles, 3 clocks starting at once. 3 engines, 3 angles, 3 clocks start. We drop to the overpass shoulder as if gravity made the plan. Concrete keeps what it can. The southbound growl swells first, flatbed with rails, bed full of men. Northbound comes lower, a pickup hunched like a dog that knows how to bite. From the construction cut, a box truck noses out. Whiteside's already tattooed with old bullet math. Angles are earned, Hellhound says, reminding the day of its rules. Radiators, I answer, because steam is smoke that apologizes. We split the work. Mongoose edges right to get glass on the box truck. I lean over the jersey barrier long enough to stitch 2 rounds into the flatbed's grill. Water and steam double minus team, the air the driver's face turns into a blink. He yanks the wheel. The truck kisses the guardrail and throws sparks that talk like lightning. Men in the bed become shouting geometry. North pickup. Alice calls and I catch it, a technical without the big gun bed stacked with crates and choices. He hits horn in a way that thinks loud is power. Sign down, Mongoose says, and he means the big road, closed, plate hinged over the lane. He shoulders it. The hinge complains and then surrenders. The sheet slams down with a boom that belongs in churches. The north pickup swerves, scrubs speed, dives into the shoulder to regain pride. Pride costs him control. He fisttails overcorrects and becomes a riddle his rear wheels can't answer. Box struck. Hellhound snaps. I aim low, left of center. First round, second, third, cool and fountains. The driver's hands forget how to be a team. He stomps brake and clutch. The truck stops sideways, a white rectangle, suddenly in love with the idea of being a barricade. Through the rib, Hellhound orders chin at the gap between box and rail, thin, ugly, doable. Then off. We don't live here. We pour through. Tires grind over shattered reflectors. The flatbed recovers behind us, men yelling, rifles shouting letters that don't spell words. Rounds slap the overpass face and throw dust into our teeth. We hit the far shoulder and drop into the construction lot like gravity remembered our names. The lot is a symphony of half-minus finished. Rebar fields, sand hills. A roller sunk to its axle in soft ground like a dinosaur dying proud. A tanker trucks its beside a row of drums, blue paint flayed by sun. Water is stenciled on its side in letters that want to be believed. Hellhound and I reach the cab together. The door groans. Keys? No, but life is short. I drop under the steering column and pull the plastic like I've done this for reasons I wouldn't tell my mother. Wires. Spark. The engine coughs, hesitates, then chooses to live. On, I bark, sliding over. Hellhound climbs in, boots leaving chalk on the floor. Valve. I shout. Rear. Mongoose answers. He and Alice sprint down the side, peel the wheel, crack the main. A silver throat opens under the bumper. Water burps, then flows, a sheet, then a fan, then a river pretending to be horizontal. Rhino in the bed, Hellhound says. Alice with him. Mongoose on left running board. Ethan, drive. We make our own weather. I bury the throttle. The tanker lurches like a ship that doesn't like its new ocean. We climb the service ramp beside the overpass and swing north along a maintenance strip no one loved enough to finish. Water rolls under resin slaps that dust into heavy, slick language. Behind, the flatbed tries to follow and learns about friction. Tires spin. Men swear. Someone makes the bad decision to sprint in it. The pickup from the north regains a pinion and hits our tail, distance closing. Mongoose leans out over the left board, comes a man painting a fence, and punches to measured rounds into the pickup's driver minus side tire. The rubber lets go with a sound like relief. The truck skates. He corrects, credit to him, and then writes one last exclamation point across the shoulder and decides to nap against a stack of forms. Right coming up, Hellhound says, eyes eating the path, hand on dash to feel the truck's truth. We crest an embankment and the maintenance strip coughs us out onto a narrower gravel road that kisses the river and then looks away. Pour it, I say, and the tanker answers by making the world behind us wet and undrivable. A spray arcs across sunlight, turns heat to glitter. In the mirrors, the flatbed throws tantrum in mud. Good. Temper is timing, and timing is ours. We sprint the gravel until it gives us an option: stay by the water or cut west into palms. Highway 6 is visible through gaps, black ribbon, small traffic, a roadblock 100 meters ahead that would love to meet us properly. West, Hellhound decides, and his voice is not at a bait. I yank the wheel, and the tanker leans on its outside tires like a big man turning in a small kitchen. We miss a concrete bollard by the thickness of a postcard. Water slashes the palms and makes green shinier. The path narrows to the width of belief. Left minus left, Alice calls from the bed, eyes map minus bright. Culvert ahead. We straddle or we swim. Straddle, I say, lining tires on the high concrete lips. The truck humps, the gap the rear axle dips, the chassis bangs like a drum solo. The world holds. We drop onto dirt that's been a road for so many years it forgot how to be anything else. The radio finds a signal and hates it. QUR not hot. QUR not hot. Unit shifting north, checkpoint snapping, then a voice too clear to be honest, traffic southbound diverted to farm roads. They'll flood our lanes, Mongoose says. Then we go lanes no one wants, I answered, and at a farm trace that is basically Tourette's arguing. We corkscrew through palms, across ditches, past sleeping tractors that will wake angry in the morning and wonder where our tracks go. Once, a dog decides to be brave and chases us for 20 meters, then thinks about dignity and goes home. Once, a woman waves us off and feel like a queen shooing pigeons. We obey because you don't argue with authority that old. We punch through to a canal road that runs straight and honest for half a click. Ahead, a skinny bridge holds 2 men and a rifle between them. No vehicle, no bag, no backup. They are courage, imposture, and a bad day. Talk or pass? Hellhound asks. Pass, I say. We don't collect arguments. I lay on horn like a funeral and keep speed. The tanker is a sermon about momentum. The bridge looks like a man ashamed of his own bones. The two at the midpoint watch us arrive with mouths that can't keep up. One aims high to feel tall. The other steps aside because survival is a language he speaks. We slide past, inches to spare, mirror brushing sleeve. He spins, the rifle follows us to slow, too late, and then we're over and gone and my hands are shaking in a useful way. Your cooking voice is louder than your church voice, Rhino says from the bed, breathy and pleased. Only when the kitchen's on fire I tell him and give the tanker more throttle than it deserves. Palms thin. The ground flattens to scrub and short fence lines, then widens to a muddy apron where two farm roads argue about who is real. Highway 6 is again in sight to our right, higher on a berm carrying a trickle of traffic that looks like a rumor. To our left, a low village sleeps with one eye open. Alice raps the cab window and points forward. Dust, she mouths. I see it, a pale plume rising beyond the next fold, not ours. It grows like a bad idea that learned to jog. Hillhound watches the horizon and counts under his breath. ETA 20 seconds to contact, he says. 2 vehicles, Mongoose adds, squinting. Maybe 3. Valve full, I tell him. He twists it. The rear spray for 10s becomes a curtain. I aim the tanker at a shallow bend and let the water paint an S on the road. When the first technical barrels into our wake, it hits the slick and rewrites physics. Rear swings. Front chases. The driver lucks into control for a breath, and then the second vehicle enters the same curve with less luck, kisses the first, and both perform a clumsy dance. I don't stay to grade. We cut left, away from the river, toward a litter of concrete boxes that used to be houses or will be someday. The lane between them is narrow enough to make the tanker self-minus conscious. A low wall scrapes the right fender with a squeal that tells the neighborhood all our secrets. A woman peers around at ore frame and tucks back in, no scream, no point. On the far side, the lane dumps us into a yard with a stack of cinder blocks, a pile of sand, and a red hillox with its hood up like a yawn. Battery installed. Tools on the fender. Someone stepped away for a prayer or a piss. Stop, Hellhound says, and I am already braking. We downsize. Alice and Mongoose are off the tanker before the tires finish rolling. Mongoose slides into the hillox like he owns debts here. He's under visor where the gods say they live, bless them. Engine turns, coughs, catches. She purrs, he says, insulted by how easy it is. We bleed into new metal fast. Rhino front passenger for Legroom, Alice behind him. Already routing straps, Hellhound shotgun me at the wheel because my hands remember distances today. Mongoose slams the tanker valve open and drops the lever. The full belly of the beast empties into the lot. A man in a blue shirt appears in a doorway, sees us, sees the water, looks at the sky as if this is between him and something older than us. He nods once, not blessing, not curse, just a note to the ledger. The hillox is a fox compared to the tanker's ox. The wheel talks back and I talk to it. We thread alleys, cut a shallow ditch, climb a short berm, and come out on a farm lane parallel to Highway 6 again, but low enough to be nobody's first choice. Good. Fjornar, Alice asks. Skirted, Hellhound says. Too hot. Take the irrigation spine west of town, ride it up. Then cut east to 6 when we smell something like order. Order, I say. Haven't cooked that in a while. We make speed. The hillox's suspension writes a complaint letter to my spine, and I file it under leader. Sun has begun its slow bargain with horizon. The light goes from harsh to mean to almost kind. The heat backs off 1 degree. Wind finds language that isn't swearing. We blow past a yard where kids play soccer with a bottle and a promise. They pause, blink, decide we are not audience and keep score. A goat yells philosophy. A generator heaves itself into usefulness. The irrigation's pine appears, a packed earth road topping a levee with canal on one side and fields on the other, straight as a sentence that knows its verb. It gives us speed and a view and fewer places to hide. I take it anyway, because time is oxygen. The radio flickers again. Amra, medical, a scrap sizz. Then, clearly checkpoints lighting up my tops, curfew north, repeat, curfew north. Curfew helps them more than us, Mongoose mutters. Night helps us more than them, I counter. If we can see without being seen. You got NV in that glove box, Schiff? Hellhound asks right flat. I've got a head full of stupid ideas and a bag of tape, I say. We can do lights out trail, distance, brake light flashes as code, where we black out and follow the canal shine in the sky. Slow. Ream. Slow and mean keeps blood in bodies, Alice says. I vote slow. Rhino exhales through his teeth, the pain valve 1 click more open and nods. My leg votes slow. We settle it without ceremony. Plan rewrite the spine until it gives us a clean left to a shadow road. We take a ditch if we must, we go dark when sun loses interest and let the world come to us instead of announcing our intentions. The spine carries us through the outer gloom of Al-Q you are nah. To our right, lights grid up like a patient waking. A wide low flicker marks a market generator. To pin percast sweep in rhythm, checkpoint flashlights working boredom into purpose. We keep to the left side of the spine and pretend to belong to the fields. A bend slides us into a tunnel of date palms. The hillock smells like dust and old cigarettes and a little victory. I ease off the throttle and let the motor idle loud enough to be forgiven for being a live. The sun tucks behind fronds, throws lattice shadows over the hood, and then dips for real. Blackout, Hellhound says, voice turned down to match the light. I kill the headlights. The world becomes lines and shine the canal, a long bruise with stars trapped in it, the sky a purple sheet, the road a darker version of both. I crack the door open an inch to hear the tires talk. Alice leans forward to watch the right edge. Mongoose grains left to become my other eye. Rhino rolls his shoulders like a man asking his body to be borrowed 1 more hour. We crawl. 10 miles an hour feels like betrayal until your eyes catch the trick of seeing more than they should. Brake pedal brushes become whispers and code to taps means hold one long press means drop, no light means breathe. We pass a cluster of houses. Voices ride the night like thin boats. A radio plays a song whose chorus is older than whoever's singing it. A man coughs. A woman laughs in a way that makes me want to keep them safe, which is not my job and never was. But tonight I let it feel like one. A right minus side cut appears, hard minus packed, low, shadowed by burned palms. I take it. The hillock noses down, then up, then finds the rhythm of corrugation and makes friends with it. The sound of Highway 6 bleeds back into our ears from the dark right truck shifting, a horn testing its right to exist, a siren somewhere that thinks it matters. Stop, Hellhound says, soft enough, and I do. Ahead, the cut rises to meet a service loop that kisses Highway 6th. On that loop, for cones glow diaphaneally. Past them, headlights sidle in a geometry that says checkpoint. The palm silhouettes on either side hold men with posture and long shapes on slings. We sit without moving air. I count breaths to keep my hands honest. Left ditch, Mongoose suggests. We crawl and push through the palm line at the gap, then ride the fence side. Fence is razor, Alice counters. Rhino's leg and razor is a divorce. Right is brighter, I say, but right has a pattern. Headlights cresting the berm in sets of 3, pause then through. They're running convoys. Between sets is our scene. We watch the pattern. One set. Pause. Another. Longer pause. Next gap, Hellhound says. We time it off that third truck's throttle dip. On your word, I tell him and find the bite point of the clutch like it's a lifeline. He counts without numbers. I feel it more than hear it. Now. I roll the hillocks like a secret up the last of the cut across the mouth of the service loop between two cones that don't get paid enough to object. The checkpoint is 40 meters right, all their eyes on the convoys and none on the ditch edge where a nobody pickup becomes night. The fence throws our shadow back at us and decides we're not interesting. We slip by. When we level with the checkpoint, voices flare again. A flashlight sweeps too wide. It catches the empty bed edge and licks the tailgate. My knuckles pale. The light hangs undecided. Rhino coughs. Not his fault. A human noise in a place that defines human wrong. The beam snaps to us, hesitation dying fast. Don't break, Hellhound says, calm steel. Don't change. I don't. I hold speed, like a song note. The beam rides our tail a breath too long and then jumps away, chased by a horn and 3 new headlights cresting the berm. The checkpoint remembers its job. We exhale together, soft and stupid, and live. Highway 6 opens beside us, long and black and full of moving decisions. Up ahead, past the glow of the checkpoint, the road rises over another low cut and then slides north into darker country where the stars will do more of the work. Next town is Amber, Alice says, eyes forward, voice back in plan. We'll need a patch job and sugar that isn't a cube. Medical, Rhino adds, because honesty sounds like that in his throat now. Farm built west of Amber has clinics that don't ask questions if you pay him quiet, Mongoose says. We steer around the big intersections. Hillhound nods once. We're under until we can't. We sleep in shifts when we can. We don't be heroes unless the bill is small. Copy, I say, and the road gives us its hum again. Then, the night changes shape. Way up ahead, far enough to be someone else's problem and close enough to become ours. Headlights blew not in pairs but in a long string, dozens, low and steady like a procession that swallowed its sirens. They crest, level, and roll south, white line after white line, a train made of trucks and resolve. Convoy, Hellhound says. Military, Alice asks. Doesn't matter, Mongoose replies. It owns the lane. We have a ditch to our right, a fence to our left, a pattern behind that knows our smell, and ahead a river of light that doesn't slow down for stories like ours. Make us away, chef, Hellhound says softly, his eyes on the approaching brilliance. I downshift. I listen to the engine in the night my friend's breath, and I begin to cook us a path through the headlights. Headlights roll south like a white river. I downshift and let the hillocks hum just under voice. The convoy owns the lanes, flatbeds, fuelers, box trucks. A bus corded with faces and dark windows, escorts without sirens, just steady speed and the authority that comes from being many. We don't fight a river, Hellhound says. We learn its banks, I answer. I slide the hillocks off the service trace and nose into the shallow ditch that runs parallel to Highway 6 to feet lower, ragged with scrub good enough. We go dark, windows down to hear gravel talk. The convoy surges alongside, the sound of long animal breathing. Diesel, rubber, heat, count their gaps, I say. Find the scene between a fueler and whatever's next. Mongoose leans out his window, arm braced on the frame, eyes turn to geometry. Fueler, flatbed, 2 crates, 1 bus, he murmurs. Fueler in 5. I tear the foil off an empty gel packet and tape a ribbon of it to the top edge of our windshield where only we can see it reflect the convoy's headlights. It catches and winks our little North Star. When the foil goes bright, we're alongside a tanker, I tell myself, and then I tell the wheel with imperceptible pressure. The foil flares. I ease the hillocks up the ditch lip and tuck us into the tanker's shadow, so close I can read the ghost of previous stencils on its belly. The tanker smells like everything flammable about the world. My window shows me ribs of metal, and a ladder the driver probably curses twice a day. Hold to truck lengths, Hellhound says, quiet math. We become an idea. Ideas don't get challenged. We ride that idea north. To the right, the ditch darkens and brightens and stitches to the left. The tanker's undercarriage sings its song of heat and grit in the life we borrow. I keep speed nailed to convoy pace. The foil ribbon pulses like a metronome. Brake code, Alice whispers. 2 taps for hole, 1 long for drop. I tap twice and the hillocks blinks its lids. We creep past a broken guardrail where the ditch falls away for a breath, then returns like a friend who forgot his keys. Rhino checks the rear view and raises to fingers could read. His leg is a constant remainder pain makes him clipped and deficient. Half a mile in the convoy compresses. We tighten with it. Up ahead, light pools on a checkpoint we will not own. A truck, minus mounted searchlight scrubs the lanes board men make big gestures feel like purpose. The front of the convoy trickles through. Papers get lifted or not, and the beam sweeps back toward us like a shepherd counting sheep. Too close, Mongoose says. Then we get closer, I answer. I nose tighter under the tanker's rear lip until the world in front of me is nothing but steel, and the world behind is our dust practicing patience. The searchlight washes our lane, paints the tanker white, then glances off its belly. The glare becomes flare. Our windshield goes milk minus bright. Our cab becomes a box inside a box. The beam drags on and doesn't find a reason to be interested. My heart forgets a bar, and then finds it again. We drift past the checkpoint like lint under a couch. Once clear, the convoy breathes out and runs a little faster out of habit. I let the hillocks rise with it. The foil in my periphery winks steady. Wing reaches in and must pass the hair I have left. Next scene, Hellhound says 3 minutes later, chin toward the mirror. A flatbed is easing down into the space behind our tanker to tighten out too curious. He'll see us if he looks over the edge. Then we change clothes, I say. I flick on the parking lamps, dim orange thing the grill, and ride them for 5 breaths, so we look like some maintenance thing that forgot to exist, then kill them just as the flatbed side rails fill my mirror. He sees nothing, or sees us and decides we belong. Either is fine. The north horizon arcens to a shape that isn't night. Overpass, Mongoose says, and something on it. The convoy compresses again. Brakes smell like pennies. I feel he radiate off the tanker's diff. The overpass becomes detailed to silhouette stuck behind a low wall, tubes on their shoulders. They're patient. They're fishing. Purse, Hellhound says. Ambush for the front third. If they fire at the lead, I say the fueler flares and writes a new sun. Everything burns, Alice adds, voice the exact temperature of truth. The convoy knows it, 2 horns talk in chords, and the escort surge lanes, trying to be a cure. The first rocket coughs a chalk line that feels almost lazy. It hits high on the lead escort's hood and turns it into a funeral without a hymn. The second launches a breath after and dives lower right into the grill of a second truck coming up to play hero. The world scatters. The lead lanes become a brawl of steel and flame. The fueler in front of us brakes hard enough to swap rubber. I mash the clutch and ride the brake in little panicked kisses. Heat hits our faces in a wave. White goes mad. Left ditch. No, Hellhound says, and I obey the triple. We drop off the asphalt into the unkempt shoulder. The hillocks buckles, right digs. I pin the throttle enough to keep momentum and keep steering like the wheel owes me money. The fueler jerks across the lane into a swerve that's half instinct, half prayer. A sheet of fire blows from its hood, engine fire, not tank, a mercy that smells like burning thrift. On the overpass, the RPG team reloads with ugly grace. One of them stands too tall for his own name. Mongoose leans his rifle on the window frame and takes the shot you don't take unless your stomach is made of quiet. The tall one tips backward and vanishes. The second flinches, looks for a ghost to blame, and loses his timing. An escort gun rakes the parapet and turns the rest of the overpass into a lesson. Through the gore, Chef Hellhound says, "Yes, Chef," I answer, because humor keeps bones in their places. I find the ditch's spine again and ride it around the wreck like a man with no taste for flame. Heat fingers my cheek. The hillocks' paint bakes 1 degree darker. The tanker ahead of us shimmies and then commits to the shoulder, riding the edge like a circus trick. We mirror it. Behind, the flatbed commits to a bad opinion and tries to force the same hole with too much speed. It catches a bumper, whines fisting, and pens itself in with a noise like gasping sheet metal. The convoy chokes on its own weight. We slip its throat and run. Eyes forward, Alice says, not unkind. You can love them later. Later, I echo. North of the overpass, the road forgets how to be busy and returns to line. Fire paints the belly of the low clouds in our rear view like a god got lazy with a brush. The smell follows and then loses interest. We keep the ditch. We keep the foil star. We keep our names. Status, Hellhound does the rounds. Green, Mongoose says false minus cheerbright, which is how he says he still has both hands. Rhino yellow, Rhino admits. Leg is a letter I can't pronounce. Alice green enough to keep Rhino yellow, Alice decides. Next stop, we go from glue to stitches. We take that promise and put it in the glove box. The convoy thins where Spur Road peels off toward lights that smell like a logistics yard. We let the tanker go, watch its shadow become math we won't use, and slide back into the service strip. The ditch rises and becomes a lip with a view. Highway 6 hums less river now, more long sentence. Curfew, the radio says again, a new voice, a different boredom. North checkpoint set. Medical only past 20 minus 300. What time? Alice asks. Hellhound checks a watch that has seen too many wrists. Close enough to count. Will be medical if anyone makes us say words I offer. They'll want a stamp, Mongoose says. I'll give them tape, I replied, and it gets the smile it deserves. The fields fall back. The world flattens. Amorous southern sprawl throws up constellations of sodium light. Between us and it, the highway lifts over a dry wadi and a construction's car bites off the shoulder like a mouth. A new checkpoint grows from the cut jersey barriers like chess pieces, a floodlight on a crane that tries to be noon. Lights out won't buy us here, Hellhound says. So we buy different, I say. I pull us into the dark apron of a shuttered-way station and kill the engine long enough to hear the night say rude things about our plan. I tear long strips from the roll of duct tape and cover 90% of the brake lights, leaving a thumbnail of read at the corner enough to code, not enough to announce. I tape a half mine, a empty water bottle to the front bumper over the right fog light and shake it the slush while ends will smear any glint we give off. Improvised diffusion. A cook's lantern. Alice hands me a roll of gauze without asking, and I wrap the plate to make us generically illegal. Mongoose blocks to magnetic reflector, triangles out of a roadside bin and slaps them on the tailgate like we belong to someone's maintenance department. It's stupid, it looks official. Story? Hellhound asks, sliding a high minus vist over his plate carrier, like he's going to direct traffic to his own funeral. Levy inspection, I say. Crew of 4, 1 injured. Medical stop at a farm clinic west of Amra. We are as boring as dirt. That last part I can play, Rhino says, breath a grunt. We idle out, join the shadow of a lumbering semi, and let it pull us like a planet. The checkpoint makes light into a weapon. Cones form channels. Men with flashlights and cigarettes herd shapes with hands. One leans into our lane. His face is a geometry class no one passed. He taps the hood twice, goes slow, and I do, the clutch smooth under my foot like a pact. Paper, he says in Arabic tone less. Inspection, Hellhound replies in the same language, equally bored. He gestures at my taped triangles and points to the canal berm past the lights. He holds up for fingers, taps his knee injured. He does it so flatly that it's ruder not to believe him. A second guard steps in, younger, the kind of eager that makes bad decisions fast. He shines his light into Rhino's face. Rhino does not blink because blinking is invention. The gauze, the set of his jar, the sweat-darkened collar, biology is our best liar. The guard's light moves to Alice. She lets her eyes go medical busy and uninterested in men with flashlights. The beam slides off. Finish quick, the first guard says, because he would like us to not be his problem when the convoy behind us arrives with new paperwork and old rage. Bless, Hellhound tells him as neutrally as English allows. We're all through, and the floodlight decides it was just checking its bulb. Night pulls back over us as if we are a pot on a back burner. Left in 200, Mongoose says, watching the narrow side road that will carry us into the fields west of Amra. The turn is shallow and mean, the kind that breaks axles if you don't flirt with it first. I flirt without making promises. The Hillex pretends not to be flattered and goes where I asked. The city's edge breathes at our right shoulder, warehouses with doorways like yawns, yards full of machines sleeping in crooked rows, a hospital square halo where we have no intention of being official. West, the fields return, grid and ditch, and the soft noise of insects rehearsing for a choir. Blackout again, Hellhound says, and I kill the lamps one more time. The water minus bottle lens catches a little sky and turns it into a private moon. We follow Camel Shine, less road now than suggestion. Break code returns, 2 taps, 1 long, language learned quick and used gently. We find the irrigations by Mongoose promised, a levee lane that runs north into the city's underarm. It takes us into the part of Amara that belongs to farmers and fixes, not checkpoints. Dogs announce us, then decide they were wrong. A boy on a scooter passes us going the other way, headlight a single star. He does not count us because counting invites questions. Clinic? Alice asks. Nut hospital? A place that likes scash and quiet. Left bank, Mongoose says, pointing. There's a dentist who stitches faces by day and everything else by night. Back of a grocery with a blue awning. He drinks tea like he's angry at it. Perfect, Rhino murmurs the word sanded by pain. We skirt a pool of light where men smoke in plastic chairs and speak in low tide. We pass a generator hum that feels like safety and noise welded together. The blue awning arrives on time and proportion, sun minus faded, edge frayed, stubborn. We idle into the back alley and park with our tail to the wall and our noses toward exit because habit is a religion. A door opens before we knock. A man with gentle hands and a tired mustache looks at us and does not ask any of the questions I prepared to lie about. He sees Rhino's leg and Alice's well-minus packed bag and makes the decision decent men make when it's late. He jerks his head in. Hellhound and I post at the alley mouth with rifles down and eyes up while Alice and the mustache man move Rhino through a narrow room that smells like cloves and bleach. Bright light booms, and then the door cuts it back to a line. We are a picture of patience beside garbage bins that have seen history. On the street side, a scooter stops, engine ticking like an insect. The rider looks our way, thinks better of it, kicks back into the stream. Somewhere a radio laughs, in static. The sky over the city has the dirty glow of places where men insist on living. 3 out of 4 of us are standing on both legs, Hellhound says, not smiling and also exactly smiling. We've been worse. We'll be better. I promise, because a promise is a calorie if you say it right. 10 minutes is arithmetic and medicine. 20 is a miracle. 30 is either death or a new chapter. At exactly 17, the door opens and Alice's face appears with the fatigue of a woman who just taught a wound to be smaller. She gives a little nod, the kind of nod that lets you breathe a different way. Stitches, flush, local, she reports. Broad minus spectrum if we can afford. He says we can. I pass bills that have lived against heat and regret. The mustache man folds them without counting and tucks them someplace civilized. 3 hours minimum before he runs, Alice says. But he can walk now like a man who remembers how. Rhino appears paler and cleaner, bandage neat, pain changed from shout to whisper. I forgot what regular feels like, he says, sitting on the tailgate as if it were a pew. He breathes in and out as if the air went on sale. Supply? Hellhound asks. The dentist produces a small sack, gauze, saline, adhesive, antibiotics and blister packs like cheap miracles, sugar packets stolen from the front counter's future. Alice packs it like she was born to do this in alleys. We're almost ready to go and the night lifts an ear to us. A drone's mosquito wine ghost overhead, too small to be useful, too official to ignore. It passes once, circles sloppy, then again tighter. Someone else's flashlight lances across the tops of the walls as a pickup rolls past the alley mound without stopping. The drone's sound leaves. Time to leave, Hellhound says. North cut? Mongoose asks, already in the map. West first, I say. Then north. We don't lead them to the spine we like. We are rude to patterns. We load soft and fast. Rhino swings into the front seat with a grimace that looks like a choice. Alice slides in behind him. Hellhound rides shotgun, window down to listen for the drone's angle. I take the wheel, talk to the clutch, put the hillocks in motion without telling it we're leaving anything. We're old. The drone follows for 1 turn, then 2, then the sound fades or the night learns not to echo. We blind minus corner into a long lane of low walls and flower pots and places you are supposed to walk in daylight. The road tightens, dogs complain, then forget us for something with a moral. We cross a bridge to low for trucks and enter a grid of streets stitched with laundry and gambling men hunched over cards. North breathes toward us. The spine waits. We're 1 turn from a levee when the city tosses a coin and it lands wrong. A headlight sweeps from a side street and a hillock's not unlike ours noses out with a confidence that reads like local. 2 men in front. Bed empty. The passenger leans his elbow on the window. The elbow wears a cheap watch and rides above, our rifle pointed down. We meet bumper to bumper in a place too narrow to share. Hellhound's hand is already up, palm out, casual hello. The passenger's elbow, which is the rifle's muzzle, rises from not a thing to maybe a thing. His eyes do that quick math where pride argues with curiosity. I could reverse. He could too. We look at each other through glass and decide what this next minute of all our lives is going to be. And behind their cab, in the deep seat shadow, something moves, too slow for a man, too small for a dog. A child sits up, hair plastered to her forehead, eyes huge, in a face that learned fear today and didn't want to. The passenger's rifle lifts another inch. I take my hands off the wheel where he can see them and put them in the air, 10 fingers open. And for the first time tonight, I smile like a human being and not like a man who solves problems with angles. Easy, I say, to him, to us, to the night. The muzzle hangs in indecision, the child breathes, the driver's jaw flexes, and a shout barks from the end of the lane behind us. Another vehicle, another set of lights, another clock starting. The shout behind us becomes headlights. The lane turns into a throat with 2 teeth. Nose minus to minus nose, 10 feet of air. The other hillock sidles a cough into the night. Passenger's rifle tilts 1 more inch. In the deep seat shadow behind their cab, a little girl sits up with hair plastered to her forehead and eyes like questions nobody answers. I lift both hands off the wheel where he can see them. Easy, I say, to him, to us, to the night. Hellhound slips one elbow out the window, palm down in the universal we're not stupid sign. He says 5 words of Arabic that mean nothing literal and everything human children. Pass, small, behind, problem. The driver sees the child he was pretending not to. His jaw closes. He lifts his chin at the wall to his right, a courtyard gate. He looks at me like a dealer offering a trade. You back, we back. Nobody dies in front of her. The shout behind us gets a hood. A third Hilux noses into the lane, light bar off, cheap spotlight on. Voices bounce. The new passenger slaps, the roof twice move. We don't have the width to 3- point anything. We don't have time to argue with physics. Gate, Hellhound says. He is already out, moving not fast, bold. He taps the other driver's window with knuckles. You could set a watch by, points at the gate, mimes backing the nose into the courtyard and giving us half a lane. The driver nods once, the smallest bow. Alice's hand is on Rhino's shoulder, steadying his breath. Mongoose watches the rear Hilux without looking like he is. The rear passenger's rifle rides the window, it doesn't point yet. The spotlight paints our hood and makes my tape triangles glow like jokes that worked once. The front driver cuts right as far as masonry allows. The gate yawns to feet before it remembers it's ashamed. He bumps the nose into the courtyard, mirror a wish from breaking. The child clutches the seat and doesn't make a sound. Your turn, Hellhound says without looking at me, because he knows I'm already turning the wheel into something a chassis shouldn't like. I let the clutch bite and skitter the nose left, hugging wall, folding mirrors in with my knuckle. The lane shrinks to 10, then 9, then 8 feet of mercy. My right fender kisses plaster with the sound of a knife on plate. I breathe the steering like soup on a narrow burner. You're clear by a prayer, Mongoose says. The rear Hilux shouts again because shouting is cheaper than decisions. The passenger's rifle lifts from maybe too bad plan. My knuckles go white and stay useful. Half a meter, Hellhound says. Give the girl the shadow. I do. The nose slides past their bumper with paint exchanged like business cards. The child blinks. The passenger's muzzle pauses on the ridge where choice becomes mistake. He lowers it a thumb's width, the distance between pride and being a man in front of a child. We clear. I keep rolling, slow enough not to wake the lane. The front driver backs off the gate and gives the rear truck a problem it deserves. They argue with horns and headlights and the math of being late. We're 3 corners away when the night changes its mind again. A white Hilux appears in silhouette at the far end, then another cutting in from across Minus Street. Lights off, engines eager. Somebody decided to box this grid and see what falls out. Scissor play. Amara's lesson. Left minus left then right, Mongoose says. Eyes gone to wire. We'll ride the laundry line and steal a yard. I take left. The lane narrows to a hallway of stucco and hanging shirts that whisper against our doors like gossip. Watch the cord, Alice says, and I duck the red minus on minus, white line of soccer uniforms. The right opens into a courtyard with pots and a sleeping dog. A man steps out, sees us, sees the not minus us behind us, and kicks a low gate with his heel so hard the latch forgets itself. He points once through. We cut his yard. A low step, heaves under the Hilux belly, and the frame groans but keeps its promises. I mouth, a thank you. He nods like this is an old game with new pieces. We burst into a parallel lane, 1 truck length ahead of our would minus be curtain. Block it, Hellhound says. Short stop, long wheel. I stop at angle and nose across back bumper kissing a well cover. It's not a wall, but it's a speed bump with opinions. The first pursuing Hilux arrives hot and bounces a fender off a corner. He curses, reverses, rethinks one more breath we can spend elsewhere. We run. The old city here cuts itself into stripes darker, and the slice of electric the night allows. 2 minus will carts. Helly shrines. Walls with history burned into them like recipes you don't write down. I take the low side of each T and hug the dark because light is paperwork. Forget ahead, Mongoose skulls. Right dies in a barricade. Left gives you a slope and a bad wall. Bad wall? Rhino asks. Voice returned to iron that learned Payne's spelling. Half minus finished, half minus cracked, half minus us, Mongoose says. I take left. The slope is cobble, an apology. The bad wall appears on the right, cinder block stacked 3 high, mortar a rumor. Beyond it, a service trace cuts straight toward the irrigation spine like a line someone drew then hid. Through, Hellhound says. I stop so fast seatbelts remember why they exist. Jack, I tell Mongoose. He's already got the factory scissor in hand. We kick 2 blocks out with boots and momentum. The wall slumps like a tired man and opens a slot wider than our truck by the width of luck. I feather forward. The front tire steps off the cobble into the dirt trace. The rear slides. The wall scrapes a door with chalk that will tell stories in the morning. We're through. Mongoose yanks the jack back in like a pickpocket folding a wallet. Behind, a pursuing Hilux arrives, nose heavy, and tries to bully physics the same way. The wall decides it has offered enough favors for one night and collapses into a tidy pile of shame. There'll be minutes, turning it into regret. We count those minutes like coins. The service trace is low and mean, mud where it's not, ruts deep enough to baptize. I aim for the Drake rounds and let the truck talk. The city stone turns to fields dirt in 3 breaths. A canal sniffs, our left tires the water catches star minus shaken, becomes a map again. Lights, Hellhound says. I kill them. The bottle minus date fog lens gives us a slow moon. Brake code returns, 2 taps for hole, 1 long for drop. Alice narrates the right minus hand world for Rhino in the front, so he doesn't have to waste pain on guessing. Palm stump culvert, 3 bricks you'll hate. We make the irrigation spine in a low yaw levee lane, canal left, ground right. It will take us north around the cities, Oregon meet, and feed us back to Highway 6 when we want it. Unless the scissor play brought nets here too. The night offers proof to silhouettes at a cut-up, ahead, engines off, minutes in a way that means not at all. DShK. Rifles, yes. Posture says bored with a purpose. They aren't checkpoint, they are curiosity turned job. We can't go through them without waking the whole row, Alice says. Then we go around them without asking, I reply. The levee falls to a borrow pit on the right, a shallow bowl of dirt garbage, and a rusted frame that used to be a car when cars were honest. Beyond that, a field fence leans, tired. There's a gap where somebody once drove stupidity through. Drop right, Mongoose says, squinting. Clip the pit. Yurdiv will hate you for 20 feet. I drop. The hillixes, nose dips into dark, the rear follows and groans. Something under us kisses metal in a way that will be a bruise tomorrow. We bottom once, gentle, ugly, and then climb the other lip. The fence gap offers its shrug. I take it's sideways, mirrors folded, a breath held. We come up in a field road to plots over. The men at the cut are silhouettes on our left now, behind geometry and ego. They don't turn. The night loves us for a second. We're on the field road north until it hooks back to the spine beyond the ad hoc post. The canal keeps us honest. Dogs register our passing, decide it doesn't improve their night, and lie back down. Water? Alice asks, which means everyone thirsted and no one said. I pass bottles to back. Rhino drinks like a man who believes in later again. The sugar packets from the clinic travel hand to hand like communion. I mix one into the bottom of my bottle with a pinch of salt and pass the rest forward. Sip, I say. Keep the machine sweet. We crest a gentle hump of levee and the world widens. Amherst teams quietly behind us ahead. The farmland spreads into black squares stitched with silver ditches. The sky makes stars out of a few holes where the haze forgot to be haze. North is more night and fewer opinions. The radio clears its throat. North bridge out of Amara diversions. East night tops active. This voice is tired and believes itself. East is river and roadblocks, Hellhound says. We hold west and thread farm roads until the highway becomes something friendlier. Friendlier, Rhino says, tasting the word like he might like it later. We stay dark and let the spine be a friend. After 2 clicks, the levee meets a T. The left branch kisses a cluster of brick sheds and a diesel tank on stilts that wobbles when wind remembers it. The right dives to a culvert and a service sloop lower than good sense. Left, Mongoose decides. More fences, more cover. We bump past the diesel tank. It tips a greeting and does not fall on our cab. The sheds give us smell fertilizer, land fat, oil. A single bulb burns inside one, buzzing like it knows moths by their first names. A man in a white shirt sits on a stool with a radio and doesn't look up because radio wins. We cut behind the sheds and catch the shadow of a grove that learned to be dull. Date palms, straight as columns, gridded for harvest. The floor between them is clean, raked, intentional. The grove gives us a band of dark that feels like a hallway to a better part of night. Halfway through, a silhouette steps from behind a trunk with hands open and nothing in them. He is lean, older, a face that has misplaced sleep for a decade. He doesn't flinch at our grill. He nods once to Hellhound's shape in the passenger seat. John Miller, he says in English threaded with sand. Hellhound's chin lifts. Kareem. Alice says, nothing her eyes betray relief by 0.5 millimeter. This was a name we didn't say on purpose. Kareem studies the bed, finds Mongoose's steady rifle, finds Rhino's taped leg, finds Alice's bag. He looks back at me like he's reading spice labels. You are the cook, he says, not asking. I'm the one who can make soup out of lies, I say. He almost smiles. Good. Come. Not here. Not loud. We follow him deeper into the palm grid, then out the far side to a mud-minus brick wall with a door that was blue once. He taps twice fast, then slow music. The door opens on cool and cumin. A courtyard, a low room with carpets, a table that has known too many elbows. A generator hums through a wire as thin as regret. Inside, lights are small and faces are not. For men and one woman, none armed openly, all armed in posture. Kareem takes us in with a host's economy. You were supposed to be south yesterday, he tells Hellhound, not accusing. Road learned new tricks, Hellhound says. Road always learns, Kareem replies. He gestures at Rhino's leg. The woman, Alia, he calls her, is already clearing a spot with clean cloth. Alice and Alia do the wordless handshake of medics, who measure competence by speed and quiet. Rhino sits and submits to gentleness he cannot afford to question. Kareem pours tea into clear glasses, so hot it dares you. He presses one into my hand. It smells like mint and something older. Mapsly, he says to no one and everyone, especially at night. Mongoose watches the door without looking at it. He tips his chin at the west wall. You have a way out that isn't your front, he says. Kareem's mouth makes a line. I have a way to a way, he admits. He spreads a paper that wants to be a map. Here, he points, farm spine to a canal gate. Gate is locked by men who want to be paid. You do not pay them. You go around here, through the boneyard. There is a cut under a bridge they do not watch because they are lazy or afraid of rats. Past that, highway becomes less angry. Less angry is my favorite flavor, I tell him. Payment, he says without shame. Hellhound meets his eyes. It isn't just money, it's trust, and the currency is old. He sets down a folded stack in something smaller, a silver ring, simple, dented, the kind of ring you keep in a pocket so you don't lose your ghost. Kareem covers both with his palm as if warming bread. I take your old story, he says. I give you a new path. In the back room, Alia puts the last stitch like a period and tapes a dressing, so neat it could be a postcard. Wino breeds better on purpose. Alice downs tea into swallows that convince it to help. The courtyard light has gone from gold to the blue that lies between ours. The drone that sniffed us earlier is not here. The city hum feels one neighborhood away. Kareem taps the map once more. You will meet a man at the boneyard, he says. He is tall and polite. He will lie about the gate because he is paid too. You will not shoot him. You will ignore him. Name, Hellhound asks. Yusuf, Kareem says. He will call himself something else tonight. He will call you friends if you let him. Noted, Hellhound says, which is not the same as promised. Kareem looks at me over the rim of his tea glass. Cook, he says, one more thing. Always one more, I answer. He nods to the door. When you go, do not be straight. You were followed to the grove. They were shy. They will be brave when you leave. I stand. My body remembers engine timing and door geometry. I finish the tea because you do not insult a man's leaves. We'll be rude to habits, I say. We load on a whisper. Rhino walks with a limp that is now a choice, not a collapse. Alia presses a small bundle into Alice's hands, extracts 2 vials of antibiotics, a tin of salve that smells like childhood and wars. Alice squeezes Alia's wrist. It says everything a thank you can't carry. Kareem opens the bluter to a narrower, darker lane, a back throat behind the courtyard. Go, he says, and then he says come back if you're not dead in a tone that makes it both joke and blessing. We nose the hillocks into the lane and kill what lights we have. The palm tops shear the sky into black scales. The engine idles, a whisper you could mistake for night breathing. We take the left where the map says right because Kareem likes men who don't test him but also don't walk their lives in lines. The lane spills us onto the field road behind his wall. We're all 10 meters and stop because I want to hear the world. The world says 2 things, a truck idling patient to our left and a foot on gravel to our right. The men Kareem warned about learned courage while we were drinking tea. On my count, Hillhound says, no lamps. Ethan, soft left around the idler. Mongoose, whisper shouts if they choose wrong. Elves, drag Rhino's shadow if he stubs. We do not take bait. Poppy, we breathe. I feather, the clutch and lay us into the soft left. A silhouette at the lane mouth flinches at a shape he doesn't own. He lifts a hand to feel big. Mongoose's rifle coughs once into the dirt by his boot, a punctuation mark that leaves everyone's grammar intact. The idling truck backs a meter in surprise, space opening because fear is polite when you treat it right. We slide past, hugging the ditch. A man shouts the name of someone not here. Another answers with echo. The back of my neck remembers that we are still borrowing minutes. The field road meets the farm spine. The spine remembers us and forgives that we left. North waits. The boneyard. The map promise sleeps in a low hollow an easy kilometer ahead. Junk water, pumps, dead tractors, a crane that can't crane anymore. The skeletons of machines that were loved once and then betrayed. Yusuf, Hellhound, says as if taste minus testing the word. Polite, Mongoose says. Paid, Allah says. Ignored, I promise. We drift toward the boneyard, our window down to take its ghost minus breath. Our headlights dead to keep our names small. To the west, beyond the dark line of fields, the horizon lifts the faintest seam of gray, the kind of mercy that means morning will eventually remember us. At the yard's edge, a figure peels off a tractor shadow and steps into our lane with a hand up. Tall, polite, benign the way a salesman is. He smiles. It's good work, it has teeth. Friends, he says in English that has paid bills. It is closed tonight. Come, talk. I keep the hillocks in first. The engine purrs like something tame and bored. I steer around him with exactly the amount of space a man gives an acquaintance he doesn't wish to know better. Yusuf keeps his smile because it is on salary. He pivots to close to Mongoose's window. Mongoose's pistol exists without heat tricks, muzzle low, angle language. Not tonight, he says, polite back. Yusuf bows. 2 degrees. Another line then, he offers the dark. Another night. Another life, I tell him, and the hillocks noses into the boneyard shallow cut that hides a culvert like a secret. The under-minus bridge gap is there where Kareem said it would be rats, water, rebar like ribs, and a wind that smells like iron remembering rain. I let the front tires find the slot and commit. The belly touches once and complains. The rear climbs. We are under the road we could have died on and over the water that still thinks about it. We ease out the far side into a strip of waste ground and then a short gravel, and then the service shoulder that learns to be Highway 6 again, less angry, Kareem promised. The northbound is 2 lanes of thin traffic. The night has loose and its jaw. The stars are fewer because morning is a jealous thing. On, Hellhound says, a horizon inside a single syllable.